Okay, so today we're going to be showcasing the latest update, version 1.3 to Environmental Normal Maps PBR mod that I made for use in conjunction with the MGE XE version 10.1 PBR specular prototype. As you can see, I've got most things already accomplished and normal mapped, as well as there are specularity files, occlusion files, and various parameters files that work for it. Here we are in the Mulligamar region. As you can see, all of the rocks, the land textures, and everything is very well normal mapped. They're all bumpy. Let me see here. Weather's getting bad on us, so let's go ahead and we'll take off out of here and go over to the Ascadian Isles region. Uh, it'll be easier to see what's going on. You can also see that the trees are all normal mapped, all the ground. This is known as Sulfur Rock. Sulfur Rock's done. Come on, let's get out of here. Okay, it looks like we're probably very close to some Telvanni towns. There's Telfir. I believe that's Telfir. So let's go over to Telfir and we'll take a look at it. We'll also showcase some of these normal maps that I've got right here for the ground textures and the various rocks. The menhir. For whatever reason, the menhir doesn't have quite as good of a texture as some of the other rocks, and it shows. Netches. Netch. As you can see, there's a nice shiny layer on the top of that netch that reflects the sun. The other netch, I decided that they ought to be very shiny because I assume they are some kind of a bug, like literally a bug. Um, okay, I want it to be known that these mushrooms are not my mushrooms, and those muck sponges are not my sponges. These are separate mods that you do need to download separately. The people who made them, they did such a good job on them, I didn't think there was any reason for me to attempt to make it differently. Now, as you can see, I do have the roofs, very reflective and shiny. They are mushrooms. I wanted them to match these other mushrooms. Naturally, I didn't make those mushrooms, but all these little ones are used based on my texture. Well, not my texture, but my normal maps for them. And that bumps them up. Even little teeny tiny ones are done. And this plant is done. I think it looks pretty good. All the wood, I decided to make look woody. So this here is it's called bark, and it looks like wood. So I decided that it should have a wood texture. And even though it's part of a mushroom, it is not reflective like the caps are. You can see the reflectivity of the caps. This is cracked earth or clay. I forget. I think that's pretty all right looking. Let's see here. Ascadian Isles is good. We'll head over to Sadrath Mora. I'll give you an example of what the rest of the Telvanni textures look like, and as well as Imperial Castles. And we can take a look at the one Imperial Castle, one Imperial Townhouse that they have here, Dirty Murals Corner Club. Although I'll probably go by to Pelagiad to really show these off because that's where you're going to see them the most. Now, one of the big differences between version 1.3 and version 1.2 is I have toned down the reflectivity off of this stone by a huge degree. Quite personally, I felt like the stone probably could be very reflective in the sun. I think it still is, though, but not to such a level where it seems ridiculous. Here we are at Dirty Murals. Version 1.3. I don't know if I implemented this new thatch in version 1.3 or not. It may be coming in version 1.4 or possibly as a separate download. I'm thinking that this file is so big, I might as well start putting in smaller update files. Let's teleport to Pelagiad. Oh, did I spell that wrong? Yeah, it said Peligade, not Pelagiad. So, um, once again, these are great. Go download them. That was actually the first PBR uh, material that I ever got. I thought it looked great in the photos on Nexus. I downloaded it, and of course, it didn't work. I took me a while. I realized that you have to have the correct version of MGE XE, and it's not located on its actual website, but it's located underneath the Skunkworks code patch. That's where you download that version of MGE XE. You do have to set a binded key in order to swap through the light textures. Let's see here. This is the dirt road. I'd say that's pretty bumpy. And right here, it comes at a pretty steep angle. So you can tell that if the time is early in the morning, that it will shine a little. I have toned down the shininess, of course, so I got to showcase that. Let's make it about 10 in the morning. Yeah. And it still shines a little, but it doesn't shine a lot. The other thing you'll notice is that compared to the other version, these shingles are much less shiny. I used to have them actually shine some. I decided they shouldn't shine. They're not synthetic shingles, they're real wood shingles. So now they look okay. Same thing with the bricks here. Now we ought to go and check out Vivek. Vivek, it was very shiny in the 1.2 version. I've toned that down considerably for this, with the exception of the braziers. I actually made them more shiny. That way you get more of a contrast between what's made out of metal and what's made out of clay. Historically, they say that this was made by stacking mud, and I wanted to show that, but that doesn't mean that it can't have corrugated metal roofing on the braziers. So you see them that they are quite shiny because of their metal parameters that are on them. I also left this not too shiny, but shiny enough. It's supposed to be a copper roof. I wanted it to have some amount of shine in order to contrast the difference between the clay that doesn't shine at all, the copper roof, which is slightly shiny, and then the metal braziers, which are very shiny. If everything looked the same, then there would be no variety. And without variety, it would all look very dull. So that's the way I've got Vivek looking now. I've also made a major update to these guys and their armor and the way that it shines. I made them extra shiny too. They are wearing metal armor. There's no reason they shouldn't be shiny. Look for in future updates for me to actually get these guys done. I haven't actually done anything with these statues yet, so I mean they're kind of ugly as sin anyway. Let's go ahead and we'll show off the moon base. The moon base is a meteorite. Because it's a meteorite, I actually left it as pretty shiny, but not that shiny. Updates also include the wood. All the wood is going to look more like wood in this update. I think that's it's been a problem with some of the woods. They looked very much like they were either very dark or they were very bright, or they cast bright, shiny specular lights off of them, like there was some kind, like they're on fire maybe or something. So we got that fixed up. I also want to go ahead and show off the West Gash. Let's head to Balmora. This version does have improved Balmora buildings, so you'll see that they look much more like they're supposed to look. They're not nearly as shiny. They do have all their bumps, their cracks and holes that are in them look a lot more believable. As you can see, Balmora is way less shiny. Let's catch this in the sun if we can, like right here on this. It no longer reflects with the light of 1,000 dying suns, so that's good. You also have to show off the improvements to the rocks. All of the rocks got retooled and have made better. They now cast light more realistically on the lighted side. They reflect the light more realistically and they get a better shadow. And they are now truer to the color that they originally were, so that you don't see them changing as they pop in from the distance, going from being colored to being black and white. These West Gash rocks especially were giving me problems. Now, let's see. That's not my Nix Hound. That's somebody else's Nix Hound. I think he did a really good job. I didn't change the Nix Hounds or the crabs. I think that might be it for other people's mods that I decided that I would go ahead and use because they look good enough already. See the Nix Hounds, the crabs. Obviously, the Imperial Mushroom Caps, those are a different one. The Shulk, that's it. There's a Shulk. Go and download the Shulk. That's not mine. Um, these Cliff Racers, those are mine. Let me see if I can try and get them in a good light. There you go. See how the light reflects on him, as well as you can see the normal maps on the veins and its wings. So I think it provides it a lot more better look. Now, if anybody knows of a similar but better texture file for these guys, or actually assortment of texture files for these guys, we could do a little bit better on the shoulders, I think, maybe the head. But that's fine for now. Now, here in the Ashlands, I didn't make very many changes from the version 1.2. I kind of think that they look good already. I did change the rocks because, as you can see, they look a lot more convincingly bumped and convincingly shadowed and reflection of the lights. Okay. I have not changed anything about the Netch, although I did download a new mesh file for the Netch, which eliminates some of the problems with this seam. As you can see, the seam is still there, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. Ah, there we go. There's Red Mountain Red Rock. Looks good. Ooh, there are two textures I absolutely just cannot locate, and I need y'all's help. Somebody help me find these textures. I will go over here and I will show you exactly what they are. There's this texture. It only seems to appear right at the base of mountains. It's obviously an original texture that nobody has ever replaced, because if I got the texture in a texture pack, I went ahead and made normal maps and specularity maps and occlusion maps for it. There is another texture that I can't seem to locate. It's actually back in the Ascadian Isles region. I'll just teleport there. Let's just teleport. Back to Pelagiad. It's right up here where the land meets the mountains. You see it all over the place. This texture. If anybody knows the name of this texture or has a texture file replacement for it, I think that's actually a pretty high quality texture for basic Morrowind, but it's definitely not something I got in a texture pack. Because I don't have any normal maps for those files, and because I don't have any specularity occlusion maps or anything like that, they reflect light very incorrectly. It's actually kind of terrible the way they look. Let's see. I'm headed towards the Mulligamar region. I didn't make very many changes to the Mulligamar region either, just like the Ashlands region. I thought that it looked good enough as it is. It was a little more shiny than these other regions, and as far as the Ashlands and Mulligamar go, I feel like they're volcanic, blasted, destroyed environments. And so I left them alone because they kind of should have a bit of extra reflection on them. You know, everything should be made out of like glass. Oh, Coyote, I didn't change the Coyote. Coyote still looks the same. Let's see here. Get out of this ash storm here. I wonder how many of those cliff racers are following me. I bet it's a lot. Okay, back over here into the West Gas region. That's not as many as I thought it would be. So the ash storm oughta go away soon. Let me see, what other regions? Oh, the Shogorod region. Let's go there. Or the Sheogorod region, however you want to pronounce it. That's fine. We'll just go to Dagenfell real quick, or Dagenfell, however you want to pronounce that. Doesn't matter. I usually just make it up, especially for Dwemer stuff. You know, your guess is as good as mine on how they're supposed to be pronounced. Now, as you can see here, we're still using, this is a regular thatch, but we also have this thatch, which has been improved enormously over the version 1.2. It actually self-cast shadows on it, and it looks more organic and more like it should, I think. Now, many of the textures that go into the Sheogorod region, they are exactly the same textures you find everywhere else. A lot of them are simply Acadian Isles textures that I believe might even be the gray rocks from no, okay, that's the Acadian Isles rocks. The rest of this stuff is from the Azores coast. So you get this texture here, that's the same texture that's on the Menhir, however you pronounce that word. I don't know, the little obelisk rocks. Most of the other stuff is all the same. So, you know, if you've been here and you've seen it, I'll start heading south. We'll get back over into the Ashlands region, show that off a little bit more on the north side of Red Mountain, where it's much bigger, way more open, and you can see some of the reflection stuff. So if you don't like how shiny I have the Mulligamar region and you don't like how shiny I have the Ashlands, leave a comment. I will go ahead and update those files and put them as a separate file so that people who like them as they are can keep them, but people who want to update them can update them and get them to where they're no longer looking like they're made out of glass. Although even then, I mean, they're not really going to look that shiny. They're going to look pretty shiny, but they do have occlusion maps and they do have spec maps, and so let me see. They really only shine if you look at them toward where the sun is. So as you can see, that's pretty shiny. It's not bad. I mean, it's ashes. Ashes are kind of white. They kind of, you know, reflect stuff. They do have 100% scattering for their light, but without dedicated specular files to tell them where they're supposed to shine. That way they always shine anywhere that's facing the light according to its normal map. That's how that works. I think it looks good. Drop a comment, let me know what you think. Like I said, if enough people say, hey, I want that less shiny, I'll go ahead and fix that up for you guys. It's no problem. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I think this looks good. Future updates will include Dwemer architecture. Right now, I don't have the Dwemer architecture any different than it was in version 1.2. You can tell by the sheer reflectiveness of this. That should not do that. But other things like the roof being made out of metal, I appreciate that. You know, that's kind of how I want it to look. You can also go into your materials file and change that by simply changing the parameter map from saying metal underscore param to rock underscore param. That will make it instantly much less shiny. But it'll also reduce its backlight on the dark side, the blue light that shows up on it. But I mean, that's what lets you know it's metal. Ash trees. Ash trees have been repaired. They are no longer bright white at wrong incidence angles. I guess Red Mountain. Red Mountain's the only thing we haven't seen yet. Oh, the Bitter Coast. I haven't been to the Bitter Coast. I'll teleport over to like Flaw Ode or Satanine or something when we get done in Red Mountain. As you can see, all of these big rocks, they use the Red Mountain textures, so you can tell that this is what Red Mountain looks like. There's also the Red Mountain White Rock and Red Rock. We'll just have to get lucky and come across those looking around in here, but I'm pretty sure if I go into the main hole in the volcano, you'll see them. Let me see, these guys, how do you look? I think they look okay. Stop hitting me. Uh-oh. I'm out of restore health potions. Alright, I don't want to fight too many more of those guys. So I am using the super big Red Mountain mod. Makes it really big. I forget the exact name of it, but as you can see, it's way taller than in the vanilla game. Looks great from a distance. Here's showing off some of the new wood. It looks a lot more believable as wood. Previously, this was almost black, so that's good. I left the ropes alone. Haven't done anything extra with them. I think they look plenty fine, and they're small enough that it doesn't matter anyway. Let's see here. Let's teleport over to Satanine. Why not? Let's hold my hands up. Okay, here we are in Satanine. Upgrades to the Bitter Coast region are actually almost ubiquitous. Everything is different than it used to be. All the trees are going to have fixed specularities, and this tree, for instance, almost looked just jet black in version 1.2. Now that we're in 1.3, it looks a lot more believable as being a tree. It reflects light off the side of it that is in the light. Tone down the shininess of the mud. I know that it's wet. That is not my crab. That is somebody else's crab. Go download that crab. It's really good crab. But the bumps and the normal maps, they're all there. Everything's here. I believe that I did fix up some of these ferns as well. There was an issue with the occlusion file being too sharpening and creating a white outline around all the leaves. There it is. Looks much better. There we go. You can see that even the luminous Rusilla mushrooms, the Hyphaea, the Bungler's Bane, they've all been done. Even the little teeny tiny Verlet Copriniuses or Coprinuses. There we are. Violet? Yeah, maybe it's Violet. Bungler's Bane, Hyphaea, they're all done. As long as you're doing the mushrooms, might as well do all the mushrooms. I did not mess with these rocks because they already looked really great. So those are going to be the same as they were in version 1.2. I already had, in fact, really what I did was I applied the method I had for these rocks to all the other rocks. Let's see here. What else did I change? Vivek, I did the castles, I did, strongholds. That's where we need to go. Let's find us a stronghold. Because I also have updates to the strongholds. So far, though, that only leaves that I need to update the Dwemer architecture and the Daedric architecture. Those will come in a separate file. I'm not going to, I mean, this thing's already 3 gigs, so I'll put them in as a secondary update file. That way it's a much smaller file, and you don't have to download all the stuff you already have just to fix those few objects. As you can see, the Daedric architecture, I mean, it looks good. It's bumpy and stuff. It does reflect in kind of a weird way. See, it gets a little too shiny on that side. I'll get into working on that. We'll get those fixed up as a separate download. Ah, there it is. I don't think he noticed me. What is this? Is this Rotheran? It's something. Androseth? Who knows? We'll get over there and take a look at it, though. Previously, all these stones had they weren't doing a very good job at having a shadow on the backside that's away from the sun. That's been improved. The basic normal maps on them have been improved. The albedo files have been remade so that they don't make those stones look so blue as they did. Tone down the reflection that comes off the ground and improved the top of this building. As you can see, that looks, it looks like a street in Fallout. So I think we're doing good on that. Uh, Shingles, did the shingles, did the wood, did all the trim. Who's this guy? Hey, you, who are you? Haven't changed anything about the armor or the better heads or bodies yet, but those are all in and they work. This wood looks like real wood. It's got that sheen, but not too much. Is that everything? That's every environment that's here. I also want you to know that since most of these textures get reused when you go into Tamriel Rebuilt, you're going to find that a lot of Tamriel Rebuilt is already done, just because of the nature that it uses the exact same textures. Future updates are going to be including the Tribunal Pack and Blood Moon. There are a few textures in there that you may notice that do it and some that don't. Most probably don't, but I don't want to get all of Vardenfell looking correct first before I start uh, worrying about the DLC. Anyway, I think that's about it. As you can see, everything is normal mapped. Everything is casting appropriate reflections and shadows. So I'm gonna go ahead and call this video complete. Do leave a comment if there's any particular texture or object you didn't think looked right. Let me know what it is. If you don't know the texture name, don't worry about that. Just tell me the object and I'll figure it out. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.